Welcome back, everybody, to the episode of the Jay Stevens Podcast. This is episode number 130, dedicated to a woman who on September 8th, 2013, beat Miss Victoria Azarenka to defend her U.S. Open title, Miss Serena Williams. And as always, thank you for sitting and downloading to the episode of the podcast. On today's episode, we talk a little bit about the man the Brooklyn Nets just hired to be their next basketball coach. There's one thing, as I watch games in the bubble, that keeps sticking out to me, and the NFL season starts this weekend. Football fans, this is our time of year. But first, next week, we're going to do something that we have never done here with the podcast. We're going to have a Q&A session, a question and answer session. You send questions in, I answer them, and we're going to do this once a month. Now, if we get enough responses that we get enough to go a second week, we may do it every single week, but right now the plan is to do it once a month. So, ways you can send questions in: email jstevenspod@gmail.com, Twitter DMs at jsteven07, or what I would love for you to do, 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. 5-star review, leave a question. I will read that question out on air next week. Now, next week, I believe it'll be next Wednesday. It could be next Thursday. Still trying to fine tune what day it is that we're going to do the question and answer episode, but this is the time for us to have fun back and forth. You ask me questions, I answer them, and hey, this is going to be a once a month thing right now. This could be every week as well, just depending on how many questions we get and how often they come in. So 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and do those. 5-star review with a question, I'll read that on air. Email, Twitter DMs, doesn't matter. We're going to have fun with this thing and kind of change things up just a little bit. Speaking of change things up, in our first segment of the day, we talk about a player that did just that. If you haven't heard, former Georgia quarterback, Mr. Jamie Newman, almost said Jamie Juman, not going to do that right now. Mr. Jamie Newman has decided that it is in his best interest to not play football right now at the University of Georgia, and it is in his best interest to go ahead and declare for the upcoming NFL draft. Now, if you know anything about Jamie Newman, he is a very good dual threat quarterback, a guy that Kirby Smart hasn't had at Georgia for the past 3 years, and he's a guy that Georgia fans are looking to kind of utilize in that way. Utilize the skills that he has, utilize his arms, his legs, and whatever else he has, his brain as well, to be the best quarterback, possibly best quarterback Georgia has seen in quite some time, just because of the skill set that he has. But Jamie Newman says no, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, due to what's going on right now, it is in my best interest to go ahead and leave. Jamie Newman put this out on his Twitter page. I'm reading this directly from his Twitter bio, a post that he put on Twitter. Quote, "With much prayer and discussion with my family, I would like to announce that due to the uncertainties of this year, amid a global pandemic, I will officially opt out of this football season to prepare for the upcoming 2021 NFL Draft. I would like to thank Coach Smart for extending the opportunity for me to be a part of the University of Georgia football program. Although my time has been short, I've built some great relationships and I've had a chance to continue my development. As I prepare for the journey ahead, I remain hopeful and excited about what the future holds, especially during these challenging times in our world. Hashtag grateful, hashtag God's plan," end quote. Now, on the surface, you may be thinking, wow, what is he doing? Why isn't he playing? Does he realize he can help his draft stock? Or, wow, is this something that we're not knowing about Georgia's offense, and where Jamie Newman is saying, this is not the best thing for me? We don't understand. We don't know all of the things that were discussed in those conversations that led up to this decision for Jamie Newman. But I will say, he could have drastically improved his draft stock by playing this year. There are some people that cannot, or that can, but they're pretty much solidified to go ahead and be a first-round pick if they play or if they do not play. However, Mr. Jamie Newman, he is one that could have really taking advantage of these extra reps. These are some notable players that have already opted out this season, not just at Georgia. Jamie Newman's one of them, but these are other top prospects that have decided to not play this season. Jamar Chase at LSU, Tyler Shelvin at LSU, Chandler Wooten at Auburn, Kenneth Gainwell at Memphis, Gregory Rousseau at the University of Miami, Caleb Parley, Virginia Tech, and then also Sage Surratt at Wake Forest. You could add in Micah Parsons. You could add in Rondell Moore, Rashad Bateman, just to name some more. You can name in a lot of guys. Panay Sewell earlier today decided that he was going to opt out as well. Hey, it's opt-out season. Everybody has a different reason for doing it. Some it's family-related. Some it's draft-related. Some think their draft stock, they can't get any better or any worse. They're right where they want to be, where they believe they'll be when it's time for the draft, and they're going to go ahead and opt out right now. And I'm sure that as soon as Georgia football fans heard that Jamie Newman was opting out of the season and not going to play this year, the first name that popped into their head was not JT Daniels. It was Justin Fields. Justin Fields, former Georgia quarterback, never started. He decided that with Jake Fromm being a starting quarterback, the best thing for him to do with his football career was to transfer. He went to Ohio State, and we all remember what that young man did last season. Now, when it comes to this season, him transferring, I believe it was just a week ago, Justin Fields was sighted in Athens, Georgia, at a Georgia football practice. Now, he is from Kennesaw, Georgia, I believe, which is about an hour away from Athens, Georgia. So it's not a far drive. Remember, he has friends there. He has buddies there. He went through 2 days with these guys. So he knows some of the players there. It's not just, hey, I'm going there just to check out, just to scout out some of this team. That could be it. But also, Justin Fields could be there just hanging out with other guys that he knows and saying, hey, let me see what these guys are doing. Since I'm not playing right now, let me see what they're doing to see how they're preparing for this upcoming season. When it comes to Justin Fields transferring to the University of Georgia, an interesting nugget came across. I was actually listening to a radio show when this was put on air at the University of Georgia. Once the semester has started, you cannot enroll in that particular semester. So if Justin Fields wanted to transfer from Ohio State and then go down to Georgia, he already knows the program, he already knows the players, he knows the coaching staff, he could come in and play right away. Not so fast, my friend. Georgia actually has a rule that even if the NCAA says, yes, we will grant you immediate ability to play, Georgia says, nah, once this semester has started, young man, you cannot enroll. Hey, that may be a loophole. That may be a rule that Georgia fans don't like, but that is there. I hope Ohio State plays. I would hope the Big Ten and Pac-12 and other conferences reverse course and decide to play. But hey, Justin Fields to Georgia doesn't look likely. But Jamie Newman opting out, with him doing it right now and Panay Sewell shortly after that, I am curious what other top prospects are going to opt out as well. Let's go ahead and take a trip to Brooklyn, because they have just hired Steve Nash to be their next head coach. And when this announcement came down, I don't think anybody expected it. One thing I always try to remind myself is that whenever a story comes out, no matter what the team is, no matter what the player is, no matter what league it is, whenever a story comes out in sports, I always try to remind myself to wait to make any kind of judgment until another or some more news comes out about that topic, because there's always more to the story. And so when I heard about Steve Nash getting the head coaching job for the Brooklyn Nets and getting hired for that position, I started to think to myself, what else is out there that we aren't being told just yet that helps Steve Nash get this position? No, it wasn't that he wasn't qualified for the job. No, it was not white privilege like Stephen A. Smith. It was none of that. I was literally waiting for more news to come out about him getting hired to see what he has been doing that we don't know about that helped him get this position. Also, I was kind of shocked. Not going to lie to you. Not going to lie at all. I was shocked just like you were. Why? Because Steve Nash was on nobody's radar to be a head coach in the NBA. Nobody thought he had aspirations to be a head coach in the NBA. But here we are. He's the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, and we're left here to talk about it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Steve Nash, man, when I was a kid, there were certain point guards that when they were going up against the Pacers, or I was a Kobe fan, so that made me a Lakers fan. My Lakers fandom literally went away when Kobe Bryant stopped playing, even at the latter end of his career after his Achilles injury. Man, look, you called me a Lakers fan? No, sirree, Bob. No, I'm a Kobe fan. I am a Kobe Bryant fan. So Kobe Bryant, I love Steve Nash. I love the Pacers. I love what Steve Nash was as a player, 2-time MVP. Even though one of those should have gone to Kobe. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a great guy, a great basketball mind. And when you think about Steve Nash on the court, when you think about my love for Kobe Bryant, when those two got together, I believe it was during the 2012 season, it was Steve Nash, it was Kobe Bryant, it was, I believe, Pau Gasol, and I believe Dwight Howard. Forgive me if I get that lineup wrong, but still, if I did or if I did not, just thinking about those four together, that is firepower. Now we all remember how that season went. Injuries derailed the season. They never played and they never got to go places that they were expected to go before the season started due to injuries and other things that went on throughout the season. But Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash together, I thought of course it's on paper. You don't know how it's going to go on court. But on paper, I'm thinking, hey, this is it. This is the year. Kobe gets ring number 6, and we can keep talking about how great Kobe Bryant is. He keeps raising up. He keeps being a better player, but that did not happen. But Steve Nash, man, there's numerous times, and if you're a youngster, because I know my buddy Jason Wall, his kids, sophomore and I believe a 5th grader in school, they listen to the podcast, so they may not know anything about Steve Nash, but they do know something about the YouTube. So I would encourage them, go to the YouTube, or if you need a refresher on Steve Nash as a point guard, go to the YouTube, or if you have never watched Steve Nash play basketball, go to the YouTube. Don't go to 2K. That's a video game. That ain't real life. Go to the YouTube. Go ahead and go there and watch some Steve Nash highlights. Because I don't expect you to be like me and watch a game. Watch highlights and you will see this young man could hoop. He was a killer on the court. And one thing we think about Steve Nash's playing style, you think about a guy that was always pass first. He could have averaged 30, 35 points a game. Always pass first, always get his teammates involved first, always get Amari and the other guys that were on his team involved first. Speaking of 2K, I know it's just popped in my head. I recently went back and I was playing some of the classic teams, and I played, it was the 2010-2011 Dallas Mavericks that beat the Heat in the finals. Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Kidd, Jason Terry, JJ Barea, that squad there that won the ring. And then I went back to, I believe it was early 2000s, maybe 01, 02, or 02, 03, one of those 2 years on the other team, the older team, and it was Steve Nash, Michael Finley, and Dirk Nowitzki. I'm like, oh my gosh, take me back to my childhood. Late days in middle school, freshman year of high school, somewhere along that time, I was like, man, these three, because I had forgot Michael Finley played for the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know how, but I forgot that. And man, when I think about those three together, Steve Nash is just like, look, I got all these guys around me. All I got to do is pass the ball, get them open. I'll get my points occasionally when I need to, but pass the ball, dish the rock. Remember, also on that squad, this came up because I was listening to the Knuckleheads podcast, and they had Nick Van Axel on that squad, and Nick Van Axel was there. The backcourt literally was Steve Nash, Nick Van Axel. Those of you that remember basketball during that time period, oh my, that was one of those backcourts that you just think about, put them on a playground, put 3 more guys around them, and they're about to run everybody off the court. Steve Nash as a player, amazing. A guy that's well respected. I've even heard him, I believe he was on the Knuckleheads podcast, and Darius Miles, Quentin Richardson, who actually played with Steve Nash there in Phoenix. I believe it was Phoenix, yeah. You got to see exactly the type of respect that those guys had back then. And actually, the more we think about it, the more we wait, as I told you earlier, we got to wait to hear the rest of the story. Quentin Richardson, Jerry Smiles, mad respect, One was a teammate, one played against Steve Nash, and they know what they saw, what they experienced, what was when he was the opposition. They remember those memories from playing with or against Steve Nash. Kobe Bryant, if he was still here, he could tell numerous stories about playing against or with Steve Nash. So many other players could talk about the same thing. Players that could talk about going up against or with or playing with Steve Nash. But Steve Nash ain't playing no more. So you're just like me. What has Steve Nash been doing? What in the world has he been doing that led up to this position to allow him to get this job here with the Brooklyn Nets? Woj wrote an article, other people wrote articles, and the one thing that stuck out to me was not just that he was a consultant for the Warriors when Kevin Durant was out there in Golden State. It wasn't just that. It's literally that he was a consultant, and he has been a consultant for the Golden State Warriors for the past 5 years. The Warriors general manager and also the GM of the Brooklyn Nets. The names escape me. I believe Sean Marks and Bob Myers, I believe. Hopefully I get those correctly. But those GMs talked and they literally consulted together, discussed this very thing and said, one, what has Steve Nash done that the players speak so highly of him? I know what he did as a player. I know what he did when the other players were speaking well of him, his opponents and also teammates. But what has he done out there in Golden State that has these players, Kevin Durant and others, speaking so highly of him? Myers, Marks talk back and forth, talk about what Steve Nash has done, what he has done to help the team be as good as they were and have been for so many years. And then also, I'm sure Marks is also asking the question, do you think he would be a good head coach? And I am sure at the same time, he goes to Steve Kerr and says, hey, Steve, come here, man. I got to talk to you. Excuse me. I got a phone call. Can't come to me. We can't go. Well, we're not a lot of places you can't go in and out of states. You know what I'm saying? 14-day quarantine, all that stuff going on right now, especially when you're in the New York or Jersey area and when you're out there in Cali. Nope. Those trips aren't happening right now for most people. Some they are, but for most they are not. But I'm sure Steve Kerr had a little input with this as well. Maybe not much, maybe not a lot, because Steve Kerr doesn't want to be the guy that helps the Brooklyn Nets hire the next head coach, who also is possibly going to be the guy. Not saying it's going to happen, but it could be the guy that faces them in the finals. Wouldn't that be amazing? Steve Kerr never had head coaching experience until he was a coach at the Warriors. Steve Nash never had head coaching experience until he was with the Brooklyn Nets. Steve Kerr, first year as a head coach, goes to the championship and wins. Steve Nash, first year as a head coach, it would be amazing if they met up in the finals. Kevin Durant's old team, KD's new team. Kyrie has already beaten the Warriors once in the finals. Will he do it again? I mean, hey, look, DeAndre Jordan wants revenge because he was with the Clippers. We all remember how those Clippers and Warriors battles, how those ended during the season. I mean, look, there are so many different storylines you can put into this thing to just think about, wow, Steve Nash and these guys, so many pieces on these teams back and forth to make this a very compelling and interesting story. But I am here for the Steve Nash hire. There are not a lot of former players that I would say, hey, that guy deserves to be a head coach. I actually went back. Stephen A. started talking about guys that don't get head coaching experience. This doesn't happen for black men, and he started using the race card. In which I can say, well, to Stephen A.'s defense, or not defense, when I went back and looked at all 30 head coaches, all 30 teams, the head coaches that are hired by teams that are currently 4 vacancies. The Bulls, the Pacers, the Pelicans, and the 76ers all have head coaching vacancies. And I went back to see what head coaches are there right now that got their first head coaching experience in the NBA without having any coaching experience at all. Honestly, there's just 3. I have already mentioned 2. Steve Kerr, Steve Nash, and Doc Rivers. That's it. Just 3. And I also went back and looked at some guys that were first-year head coaches in the NBA that were former players. And, well, how did that shake out? All of the guys here are black. Jason Kidd mixed with black and I believe it's Filipino. Could be different, but I know he is mixed. But these are 5 guys that are former players, all former point guards, all guys that a lot of them have rings in the NBA. I'm not sure if Doc Rivers does it off the top of my head, and I'm not sure if Mark Jackson does either, but I know the other 4 do. Former point guards in the NBA, guys that were played very well, that were well respected throughout the league. And you think, well, how did these guys do it when they were head coaches in the NBA? Well, when I say their name, you'll know exactly how they did when they didn't have any coaching experience and then they got their first head coaching job. Jason Kidd. We already know how that went. Derek Fisher. We all know how that went. Mark Jackson got fired, went back to ESPN, and that man has not left, and I can't blame him. Calling games seems way more enjoyable to most, myself, than it would be to be a head coach in the NBA. Calling games has a lot less stress. Just going to throw that out there. Doc Rivers, Magic Johnson. Some of y'all probably didn't even know Magic was a head coach. I believe his coaching tenure lasted 16 games, not 16 years. 16 games, and that's it. Nope, we're done with this. Didn't happen again. Then also Isaiah Thomas. Yeah, Isaiah, coach, front office, not too hot. I wouldn't put him there ever again. If I was hiring for someone in a head coach, assistant coach, front office, Isaiah is not touching my candidate list. But Steve Nash, man, yeah, you got a list of guys here. You got 6 here that, well, Doc Rivers still coaching. Magic didn't do well. Isaiah, not saying much. Mark Jackson did well, and they got put up out the paint by the Warriors. Derek Fisher, Jason Kidd. I mean, I can't knock them. You have other guys that prefer to be analysts, that prefer to be behind a microphone like me right now than be a head coach. Hey, there are a lot of former players that say, I would rather analyze the game. I would rather call the game, be a color analyst, than be a head coach in the NBA. I can't knock any of that. I can't knock anything. And also, I can't knock a guy that says, let me go after Steve Nash. Let me go after him. Well-respected. Kyrie likes him, approves of this. Kevin Durant likes him, approves of this. Then why not go for it? If we have the 2 best players on my team that go ahead and say, yes, bring this guy in, why not go for it? Because if you didn't listen to them, you would lose their trust. And, well, next time free agency hits, hey, I'm gone. Y'all don't respect me. I don't like how y'all treat me. I am away from Brooklyn. Let me go back to where I was, where people respect me and my opinions. Steve Nash, Brooklyn, this may be a good match. This may not be a good match. But I'm looking very, very closely, and I'm curious to see how well he does in his first coaching job. And you know what, Steve? I hope you listen to this. You may not be. But Steve Nash, if you happen to listen to this, I am rooting for you. I am in your corner. And I am hoping you do well there in Brooklyn as their new head coach. Before we start talking about the NBA playoffs, which have been very exciting lately, we have a word from Plutus Sports Analytics. Plutus Sports Analytics is a company based on minimizing the uncertainty in sports betting to help you maximize your profit. Newfoundland's first sports analytics team provides daily predictions for all Major League sports so you can win big. Whether you want to hit MLB picks out of the park or get a slam dunk on your NBA betting tickets, Plutus is a company of choice. Head to PlutusSportsAnalytics.com. That is PLUTUS sportsanalytics.com. Use code JSP10 for 10% off their deadly service. As the NBA playoffs keep progressing and going deeper and deeper, one thing we expect is that these games continue to get better and better and better. Yes, in the first round this year, it's no different than any other year. We're going to get some matchups that are duds, that these teams should not be in the playoffs. These teams should not be here, should not be matched up. We all know it. We're going to get a sweep. Heat and Pacers, yep. Get them out the paint, Pacers. Get out the bubble, going back home. Yep, you didn't have a chance against the Heat. Or you have matchups like you have with the Jazz and the Nuggets, or the Rockets and the Thunder, where they go to 7 games and then go into 7 games. In that 7th game, we find out who has more left in the tank to go ahead and move on to the next round. And it's great. We love those matchups. We enjoy those matchups. That's what we live for as sports fans. But as we keep going into the second round and deeper in the playoffs, there's one thing teams should be doing that some teams are not doing. Raptors, Celtics, Lakers, Rockets, whatever matchup it is, it seems like some of these teams are not taking care of business early. And when they don't do that, you find yourself like you are when it's the Raptors and the Celtics series, where Celtics up 2-0, they know if they win game 3, this thing is over. We all know going into this series, this is going to be a battle. The Celtics have exactly what is needed. Not sure if they're going to be capable of doing that, but the Celtics had the firepower, the coaching that is needed to dethrone the champions, the Raptors, in this round. The Raptors, they also, now this year, they don't have Kawhi Leonard, so they're missing a big piece of what made them who they were last year, but they also have a coach, they have players that were there last year, that know what it takes to get further, and that have a formula that even without Kawhi Leonard, they played very good basketball before the shutdown, after the restart, and in the playoffs as well. So they should know, going down 2-0, there's one thing we should do, we have to do, that is win game 3. If you lose game 3, it's basically done. It's basically over. There's no chance of us winning this series based off past history. Now, granted, we could be the first to do this feat, to be down 3-0, and then to go ahead and come back and win the series. But we all know it's tough. It's very tough. And the Raptors, just like many of us, they know it's probably not going to happen if they lose Game 3. Game 3, we all remember Taco Fall guarding Kyle Lowry, OG Anunoby sneaking out to the other side. Think about how tough that pass was. Kyle Lowry, 6 foot. Taco Fall, 7'5". Arms straight up in the air. Kyle Lowry throws the ball across court. Forget about the defense. Jaylen Brown was sucked in on Marc Gasol, double teaming him, knowing Marc Gasol, slow-footed self that he is, slow-moving self that he is. If he gets the ball, it's probably not going to be possible for him to get the shot off with 0.5 seconds left on the clock for him to score and for the game to go into overtime. But Jaylen Brown got sucked in. Kyle Lowry made a pass, and even now as I look back, as I watch that clip over and over, I am wondering in my own head, how in the world did you get that pass over that man's arms to the other side of the court, and OG makes that shot, and as I saw, that shot was out of his hands with 0.2 seconds left on the clock. Now, we all remember Derek Fisher, I believe it was the 04 playoffs against the Spurs, the elbow on the left side of the court, left free throw line, shot that ball left-handed, ran to the other side of the court, ran away, because we all remember those times. When you made that kind of shot, you got off the court as fast as you can, so there's no chance of the refs reversing that call. That's exactly what he did. So the Raptors know if they lose Game 3, there is basically no shot of them winning the series. Yeah, they still have to win. They still have to technically lose 4 games, or they can go ahead and keep playing and potentially win the series. But if they do lose Game 3, there's basically no shot, and the series is over. Basically. Not literally, but basically, the series is over. And the Celtics could have taken care of business first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, but they didn't. They left that little brief second of hope that the Raptors needed to be able to win that game. You go back to a game that happened on Sunday night. The Lakers and the Rockets. I was watching this game, and all of a sudden, I look up in the second quarter, Lakers were up by 21 points. When I was a kid, we played 2K. We played NBA Live. Live was big back then before 2K took over. But we played video games. We had a PS3 at my house, a PS2 at my house, a Dreamcast at my house. Hey, speaking of Dreamcast, they need to come back out with that. And I think it was Dreamcast that had this game. I think it was PS2 or PS3, one of the two. But whoever wants to go ahead and remaster NBA Street Volume 2, do that thing, because y'all just gave Tony Hawk a remastered game that I'm going to get at some point in my life, here shortly, hopefully, that we basketball fans would love for y'all to go ahead and bring back NBA Street Volume 2. Trust me, we got enough systems, we got enough technology. Remaster that thing, because NCAA Football 14 gets a lot of my time, in NBA Street Volume 2 will get a lot of my time as well. But when I was a kid, there was something called 21 Skunk. If you were playing a game and you got down by 21 points, either basketball or football, Madden, Live, or 2K, it did not matter. If you got down by 21 points, 21 Skunk, hey, buddy, don't finish the quarter, don't finish the drive, none of that stuff. Get that stick, pass it to the next person, because you're out of here. When I played pickup games, there are sometimes, if you get down 7-0 when it's first to 11 win by twos, buddy, hey, get off the court. You're gone. Get out of here. There is no reason for you to be here right now. You are literally stinking this court up by your play. Get out of the paint. Lakers up 21 points at the end of the third quarter. Because, I don't like watching blowouts. I watch them. But this one, I was like, I can find something else to do to entertain myself. Because this is boring. This isn't what I want to watch. But then come back, the Rockets were up by 2 at the end of the third quarter. I'm thinking, hold on, timeout. Somebody help me understand what is going on. You're up by 21. Now, granted, you're not going to pass the sticks in a literal basketball game. That's not going to happen. You have to finish it until maybe the fat lady sings. I'm not going to say whatever phrase you want to utilize there, until the fat lady sings. But the Lakers up 21. Down 2 at the end of the third quarter. Granted, they did come back to win the game 117-109. But you have to think about, the Lakers had the perfect shot to go ahead and take care of business early. Second quarter. Come back after the end of the third quarter and keep pushing them down. And keep telling the Rockets, we are better than you. You have no business being on the court with us. Let me just talk about regular common sense here. You see the Lakers' height. You see the Rockets' lack of height. How in the world, help me understand this, how in the world are they not dominating this team in ways that they are not doing it? Look, LeBron, AD, Dwight, JaVale, whatever guys you want to talk about, Kuz, you are out. You have so much height, so much girth, so much muscle. There is no reason at all that this series is not 2-0, simply because, and these aren't just tall guys that are tall for no reason, or Sean Bradley. Now, granted, Sean Bradley got to the NBA, had a long career in the NBA, but Sean Bradley's 7'6", got dunked on by a couple guys. I believe Kobe got him once. I know T-Mac got him once. I'm just saying, man, look, what are we doing? Are y'all just tall for no reason? I don't believe you are. I believe D'Antoni's put something together. I know the Rockets have put something together that worked. That worked in Game 1. Game 2, Lakers came back, didn't take care of business early, but had to do it late, had to come back late. Granted, they're pros. You expect the Rockets to fight back, but also you expect the Lakers, especially when they have LeBron James, to do what's needed to put a team down while they're down and keep pushing them further and further down. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Well, that did happen. That did not happen. Rockets come back, then eventually Lakers did come back to win that game. In the playoffs, NBA playoffs, as this keeps going deeper and better teams keep getting matched up against each other, take care of business early. I'll take it back last year, college football. College football season is starting now. Clemson plays this weekend. Ohio State probably will not play in the fall, maybe at Thanksgiving, maybe in January. Nobody knows what's going through the decision makers' heads there in the Big Ten. But one thing that Ohio State is always going to haunt them, they had, I think it was 3 or 4 chances in the red zone. I want to say it's 3 chances in the red zone during that game against Clemson, their semifinal game, where they didn't take care of business. 3 chances, 3 field goals. Yes, they scored, but against a team like Clemson, if you don't score touchdowns when you're in the red zone, you're going to have a hard time of winning. You probably won't win, and we all see what happened. Forget all the penalties, forget everything else. Or if Ohio State takes care in the red zone, despite everything that happens, they probably win that game. Take care of stuff early. Take care of things early. You take care of the game early on, You don't have to try and strap and fight and claw to come back later on in the game. Speaking of things that happen in games, this weekend, I am excited, guys. I am oh so happy. This weekend, the NFL season starts, and with this being the NFL week number one thing I am looking forward to, which is not the main thing I'm going to talk about, but one thing I'm going to look forward to is that game Thursday night between the Chiefs and the Texans. 8:20 NBC. I am happy for it. Patrick Mahomes just got paid. Deshaun Watson just got paid. And I am excited to watch these two teams match up. But with them matching up, with them playing this coming Thursday, one thing that is going to be at the forefront on my mind is how do these guys do hitting somebody else? You may say, Jay, what are you talking about? Where are you going? We all know, we're used to, in my lifetime, I know previously in my lifetime there may have been a time, I haven't fact-checked this just yet, recently, I have at one time, but in football, there was a time that there weren't 4 preseason games, there weren't 16 regular season games. I think next year there's going to be it's either 2 or 3 preseason games and then 17 regular season games. This year, they're going to add a team to make the playoffs in each conference. So 7 teams for both conferences, 14 teams in each conference. 17 teams in each conference, 14 total will make the playoffs. And one thing, there's changes. There are things that change in our life. I mean, even when I played high school football, we didn't have preseason games, as you may want to say, where it's we play these two teams in a preseason matchup, a full game. Starters get a little run, backups get some run. We didn't have that. What we had was a scrimmage. And when I was at school, Lawrence Central High School played Carmel High School. We drove, I think it was like about 30 minutes to their field. Nice field, maybe one of the nicest fields that I have played on. Actually, I know it is because they were the first ones that had turf. They were actually one of 2. But the other school I didn't play at. So they were the only school that had a turf field that I played at. Now, granted, that was back 03 to 06 were the years that I played high school football. Graduated in 07. So that was kind of how that was back then. We had a scrimmage. We played somebody else. But before the scrimmage, we had an inter-squad scrimmage where we scrimmaged ourselves. And then the following week, we scrimmaged somebody else who we actually had to game plan for. We had to get ready for. We had to go out there and not know it wasn't like they were in the same defense as us and they were in the same offense as us. No, it was totally different. So you're having a game plan, you're having a scheme, you're having to read different things and trying to figure out what that D tackle is going to do or what that corner is going to do or how that safety is paroling and patrolling. Excuse me, that's the word I was looking for. Patrolling the secondary. You had to try to game plan certain things. So not only does that help, that doesn't just help the players, that also helps the coaches and every person involved, including the referees. Referees need this time as well. Now, granted, yes, referees get time during squad scrimmages that they have also had right now, that teams have had. But one thing we missed this year that I think is going to be really, really prevalent and something that's going to be sticking out in bigger ways than people may think is a lack of preseason. Go ahead next year, knock down the preseason games. Let's see how the first few weeks of the season, how they look and how teams and how players are not playing as well as they normally do in week 1. Preseason games are huge. 1, it helps you hit somebody else that you don't normally see. It helps you take out your frustration out on somebody else and do it in ways that they don't expect. Because I remember when I was playing football, when I used to go up against the same guys over and over and over again, man, look, I got tired of it. I got frustrated. I learned their moves. They learned my moves. And in the end, we got better at figuring out what the other person was doing. But by the end of 1 week, we knew what was going on. So we had to try and learn new moves. We knew that the move that I did that worked on everybody else didn't work on them. So yes, it makes us better, but it's also so much better to scheme and hit other people that we don't have that this year. There's actually the gentleman that was just on the podcast, Daryl Gordon, former linebacker at the University of Notre Dame. At the end of the episode, he talked about his son, who is a starting quarterback at Park Tudor, starting quarterback as a freshman. Yeah, varsity, baby. He's doing big things. Well, I was talking to my dad today, and my dad told me that his son's team had to sit out the next 2 games. Played week 1, week 2, week 3 of the high school season. They had to sit out because due to quarantining. A player on the team got the Rona, got COVID-19. Then also they had a 2-week quarantine. Well, one thing you actually have with the 2-week quarantine is you have no hitting. There's no practice. So you go from 2 weeks of 2-a-days and then 1 week of practice, getting ready for your first game. You have your first game, then all of a sudden somebody has a positive test, shut down for 2 weeks. Well, your body, for that 2-week period, you had gotten used to getting hit. You had gotten used to the brain stuff that happened, but really your body was acclimated and used to getting that pounding over and over and over and over and over again. Well, when you shut down for 2 weeks, your body gets relaxed. Your body gets used to not doing anything. You're at home, and then all of a sudden you get back out there. Your body's not the same way. Well, that's the same way with football, with the NFL. We are so used to 4 preseason games, even if the ones don't play very much. They may play a half, or they may play a full quarter, or they may play a quarter and a half during preseason game number 3, preseason game number 4. Most won't play. They may play a series, and that's it. We're used to that. The players are used to that. And I'm very, very curious. My picks will come for the upcoming weekend at the end of Thursday's episode. But I am very, very curious to see how teams, how players and coaches adjust to not having a preseason and not being able to scheme or hit somebody else. Because, guys, yeah, no preseason games are cool, but that may not be cool to your body or to your mind when that first hit comes. But I'm happy. Football is here. And this weekend, we can do what we're so used to doing in the fall, sitting down on the couch, going to your local bar, getting a drink, getting a snack, and watching football all day long. Thank you for listening to the episode of the Jay Stevens Podcast. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. If you're not on Twitter and you would love to connect with the podcast, send your emails to jstevenspod@gmail.com. Remember to always subscribe, rate, and review. It's a great way for people that are searching for new podcasts to listen to come across this one. Then remember to always get the word out about the podcast via word of mouth. The things that we enjoy in life, we are more willing and somewhat wired to tell other people about. So no matter if this was your first episode or if you have been listening since episode number 1, be sure to let people know about the podcast. This has been episode 130 of the Jay Stevens Podcast. I'll see you next time.